Thanks for coming back into the main room. And we're very honored today to have Mayor Harrell join us, the 57th mayor for the city of Seattle. A round of applause for Mayor Harrell. Great. And we have a great conversation here. Just a real casual armchair conversation with the mayor and with Chera Amlag, small business owner. And Chera, say hello. She is the owner of Hood Famous Café Bar. And because we're short on time, rather than spend the most of this just doing introductions, neither really need any introductions. So we'll just launch right into our conversation, and then we'll hopefully, if time permitting, maybe we can take a question or two. But first, I just want to start off. We'll start with the mayor for just a quick second. Maybe again, thank you for being here, Mayor. We have the opportunity with a significant number of folks from our AAPI community with us. Just thought maybe if you had any opening remarks or thoughts about our convening and to share with folks before we get going.
Well, thank you, Mike. I'll stand up just a little bit for those in the back. I'm not going to keep standing up, by the way, just every now and then. So the reason I'm excited to be here, because, Seattle has gotten very large, of course, and some of you are not just in Seattle, you're from the region. But every now and then, it gets small. And by that I mean, we build community. And I think one of the things that this particular community, in the API community, got really excited about my candidacy and my administration is because you see my values and your culture and my cultural values and awareness. You see a commonality that talks about what we're going to talk about today. The beauty and the importance of small businesses, the beauty of cultural commonality, that many of you have come from distant lands and you didn't come here to say, I want to fail. You came here to say, I want an opportunity. And under Mike's leadership and the SBA's leadership and under the Biden administration, we are creating new opportunities, new lifeblood, new energy. I bounce sometimes when I talk because I have energy. And so I'm excited to have this discussion, and Chera sort of represents the best of the best when she's, she has one foot in city government, but the other foot in what you are doing, building community, building small businesses. So I just wanted to open with that. And I'm not going to start calling out names because I see so many family-like members out there, and you know who you are. But thank you for building community, and this is your city hall. This is where we're going to make this happen for you. So thank you for being here.
Great. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for hosting us today at City Hall. Chera, that's a great segue to you, and we'd love to hear a little bit about your story and your journey in terms of starting your small business. So could you give us some insight?
Welcome. Thank you, and thank you for having me, and it's an honor to be speaking with you, Mayor Harrell, and everyone in this room, because 10 years ago, was not expecting to be a business owner. I fell into it. My husband and I started a pop-up up on Beacon Hill 10 years ago in 2013, because the power of pop-ups is real. And then, we wanted to celebrate our 10-year anniversary, and we went to Kuya Ernie Rios, the owner of Inay's, the longest-running Filipino restaurant at the time, when Beacon Hill didn't look like Beacon Hill, and he opened his restaurant to us. And we did a one-time pop-up, and I think there was just such a craving and a desire to have more spaces, Filipino-American spaces at the time. The cuisine wasn't as robust in the media as it is now. And I think people were craving for that community space. And so what started off as a pop-up 10 years ago turned into a business today. And we have two locations. We have our Ballard location, which we do our wholesale. We're proudly in Wajimaya. They are our first wholesale clients. And then we have a cafe and bar in the International District that's been open for 4 years now.
So Chera, I got to ask you about this famous cheesecake that people keep telling me about. Tell us a little bit about the pies, and, but also from that, a little bit about maybe some of the challenges you might have faced getting going, and maybe some of the things that you're still dealing with. And
yeah. Absolutely. I'm really proud to still be in business 10 years, but it's grueling. I think anybody that has owned a business, a small business, has known somebody, it's been a challenging last few years. And in the beginning, I would say being able to understand the landscape, I didn't know at the time. We bootstrapped a lot of it in the beginning. I wasn't familiar with CDFIs. And so in starting a business, I had no idea. We were lucky enough to be approached by WHIAANHPI to get a wholesale account, so we started as a wholesale business. And so our business started because we were given an opportunity. And I would say all across my journey, it's people opening doors and being able to access, and that's why being able to find access points and folks being able to understand what is available to them is so important, because folks will walk through the door as long as they know that it's there. And so I would say capital was really challenging in the beginning. When I was first introduced to CDFIs, I had no idea what that process was, and it was really, looking back, I didn't know how risky I was. And it really, because I had no experience, we were starting off as a pop-up, and it was really advocates in the CDFIs, so Business Impact Northwest, Joe Tucker, Antoinette, my lender at Craft 3, when we got our second SBA loan, they vouched for me. Not just my business, but they vouched for me. And so I learned a lot about that process, and I would say that access to capital was one of the most challenging parts in the beginning, but once I understood it, I started telling my friends that, hey, don't be afraid of loans, don't be afraid, take the risk on yourself, because I think our communities are one of the most innovative communities. And when you're I'm an immigrant, when you think about all the different things that a small business needs to have, the risk, the grit, the resourcefulness, immigrants, refugees, our communities have all of that, and that transfers into business as well. And so I started thinking that way and just started believing a lot more in my ability to, to run the business and take out more capital.
Thanks, Sharon. I swear this wasn't intended to be a walking advertisement for SBA, but I would like to point out access to capital is a very core program element for us, and our folks are right out the door. So Mayor, part of what Chera described is what I know you and I have seen as we've toured small business owners and met with folks all across the city and elsewhere in the region, is that passion for the work, the passion for innovation and creativity. I know you have been committed to the growth and economic vitality of the city. Based on a little bit of the work that your administration is doing around small businesses, maybe you can share with us a little bit of how your team and your work ties back into what Chera's talking about in terms of small business growth and expansion.
Sure, I'd love to, Mike. And it's sort of funny, excuse me, it's sort of funny when Chera was talking, I was just looking around the room, and my God, we have the who's who in the API community here, man. If you're thinking about running for office, this is the place to be right now to shake some hands. And I do want to recognize you have many elected officials here from the API community, former and current, so I just want to give them a shout out, and I'm always grateful to see you in your continued work. So to answer the question directly, this is our time for small business development. And the reason I say that is we know that what COVID did, it did change buying patterns, that people are buying through e-commerce differently, and it's probably not going to go back. A bottle of water, for example, people are even buying this stuff e-commerce, when how hard is it just go to the store and get one of these things, right? So the buying habits, if you look at the data, has changed. But what the small business does, number one, it allows us to hire from communities, to recycle our dollars. It allows us to, talk to one another in a world where we're looking at little screens, little boxes, and virtually, that the building of community is going to be important. So what we have to do, what I have to do as a mayor, is I have to, number one, as Chera said, I have to make access to capital, critical. I have to look at commercial affordability, critical. At lunchtime today, I'm going to give a speech on our housing levy, because it's going to be so important for me to be able to allow you to live in one of the most expensive cities in the country to live in. We have to be intentional about keeping you in the city. The other part, yeah, give me some of those snaps. The young people do have snaps, man. Shoot, I only get claps. I like those snaps. So that came out after I was in office. I like that snap action. Now here's what's critical, and it's some work we're doing through our Office of Economic Development. Is we looked at what are some of the other biggest challenges of a small business. Now, many of you know my family owns small businesses in Chinatown International District. On both sides, my mother and father, they own small businesses. And my family continues to own small businesses. So we say one of the biggest challenges that I see, and as a lawyer, I used to counsel lots of, hundreds of small businesses. That number one, the relationship capital you have, the people you know often look like you. They come from your community, come from your culture. And that might only be 4 or 5, 6% of the demographic of 100% demographic you're trying to hit. So how do I help you develop relationships in Ballard, let's say, for example, or in Bellevue, dare I say. I know there's some Bellevue people here, so that's the B word. But how do I get people around here to visit your business because you have a unique product? And often we have to look at that as something that's handicapping us. And through the technical assistance that the SBA gives, coupled with our OED work, we look at that. Strategic planning. And you walk into a small business and talk about how much time are you looking at strategic planning? How much time are you doing that? They say, what? Man, I'm trying to pay the light bills, brother. Right? And so, you remember that some of the largest businesses in this country, many of whom are located here, started as small businesses. And what they were able to do is carve out enough time and resources for that technical strategic planning assistance, which, quite frankly, you just don't have time to do. The other piece of that is social media, right? I mean, I'm dating myself a little bit here because I finally arrived where I got people do my social media for us, but you asked me to tweet. Tweet. But we have to be able to use those tools, and when you're working your product or your service, whatever your small business is, you don't have time to spend on social media. You're just hoping you don't get a bad Yelp review or something, right? So these are important tools through technical assistance that you just don't have time to have. So through our Offices of Economic Development, again, partnering with the assistance that the SBA gives us, we want to do a granular look at your business to see how we can help, because we know how hard it is to survive, dealing with access to capital, commercial space, et cetera. So this is the sort of the ecosystem of small business work we want to do for you. And I'm pretty excited about it. And through the Restore program, through some of the ARPA federal dollars, right now, every time, I tell you who's my enemy out there. And it's not the people that just call me bad names. So that's okay. That's what I sign up for. It's the plywood in these small businesses down here. Everywhere I see some plywood, I see an opportunity for you. So what we're going to announce very quickly here under my Downtown Activation Plan, DAP, we're going to make some announcements here next month as the opportunities for you, coupled with help from the SBA, on how I can fill up all these, because I want to activate downtown. So that's why I say this is our time, this is our opportunity.
Great. Thanks, Mayor. And the mayor touching on really the full complement of resources and leveraging local government, federal government, public and private sector resources for economic growth is exactly what we want to start looking in terms of forward thinking as far as our economy and job growth and job creation. So Chera, I wanted to turn back to you. You've given us a little bit of perspective on sort of the start of your business and sort of some of the challenges you're facing, a little bit of the what's on the horizon, what's next for your business, and what you see are some opportunities. And I know for many of the business owners and resource partners out here, we're still trying to help move small businesses from the pandemic into adapting to a new world order, so to speak, but also resiliency going forward. And the work that the mayor's doing and the rest of us, I think, could benefit from some insight and perspective from you on the ground. So Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'd have to say that, businesses are still trying to recover. And, I think as I'm extremely grateful for the trajectory of my business, but it isn't, we also felt the impacts of it, and my story, and I know a lot of other business owners share the sentiment. When COVID hit, our revenue went down 50%. And we spent our 1 year in, closed dining rooms. And although we are seeing more foot traffic, definitely in the summers, the cruise ships have been helping. We're right there on 5th, right across from the light rail station, and so we're able to kind of track and see the foot traffic, and we are seeing an upward trend, but we're not at the 2019 levels yet. And I do want to make sure that folks still understand that businesses are definitely still struggling. You can walk into a business or a restaurant and see it full, and that's great, but it doesn't mean that they're thriving. And so I just want folks to still understand that, to continue to still support and obviously, celebrate that we're getting there, but folks are still trying to dig themselves out of a hole. And so, what I am looking for in our horizon is to continue to really, continue to be resilient, get us back to those 2019 numbers, and then really, what I found in COVID that people, maybe was the silver lining, is people started to think really creatively about their business and do things within their business model that they might not have done without the pandemic. And so for us, we now have what we call a little palenque, a little gift shop, because when our dining rooms closed, we really missed our community coming in, and so we brought in local artists and curated a little marketplace. And so that's still there now. That wasn't a part of our original business model. And so, we're hoping to continue to expand wholesale, but it's slow. And I just want, in a room full of folks that are really, whose job it is to help and revive the economy, I just, as a business owner, but also seeing firsthand what's going on and just the intentional efforts that the city of Seattle is trying to do for businesses, just a good reminder that we're not there yet. And why it's so important to continue to provide resources for small businesses, especially the ones that kept their doors open all throughout.
Right. Thank you, Chera, and thank you for those thoughts. I appreciate everything you do for community, but also sharing with us your story. Mayor, I know our time with you is pretty brief today, but I want to make sure you don't, I do not want to be responsible for you being late to your next event, because I will be hearing it from your great team. So parting thoughts for us, given some of the, our mission today is to make sure folks both know about the resources that we have across our federal government, but also vertically up and down state and local government. What do you want to leave our folks with as we kind of go through the rest of the sessions and planning, and also your thoughts in terms of just future vision on the small business realm?
Thanks, Mike. I'll stand up once again, and I do apologize. I'm making a huge announcement again on our housing levy strategy, which is going to be probably the biggest investment that this city will be able to make toward the housing crisis, and so I have to go to another place for that. Now, having said that, so through our Seattle Restored program, we put around 30 minority-owned businesses, BIPOC businesses, small businesses in vacant storefronts. We're going to put 45 more. And so we're looking for opportunities for you to help me activate parts of the city that need activation. Now, we think that this is going to be, and quite candidly, a step not only in the right direction, but I talk constantly to mayors in other cities about what they're trying to do. And one reason why I'm so excited about Mike Fong, my friend and brother in the Biden administration and the SBA leaders here, is because we're looking at how we could change. I always say, give us resources, we can show the country what we can do with them here in Seattle. Because we have a vibrant API community. I make no bones about it when I talk about how they've worked with me my entire life. Funny story, when my grandparents had come here from Japan many, many years ago. They had a grocery store. And the grocery store was doing okay, but it wasn't doing what they were hoping it would do. And they realized that one thing would sell out all the time before the groceries, and that were flowers. And they said, they scratched their head a little bit. And what they did was let's scrap the grocery store, and they went all in on the flower shops. And you may recall Garland Florists on Jackson Street. You may recall Cherryland Florists. Those are my mother's sisters. And they were thriving. Of course, the government did take them when they were interned during World War II. And I tell that story to say that the beauty of your businesses is you know how to be nimble. You know how to think on your feet. You know how to run a business more than others. We've seen it time and time again. That's the opportunity that our administration are committed to. So we have people inside the tent, so to speak, like Chera in our Office of Economic Development. We're working closely with the SBA. And I'm going to say this in my closing. If we fall short, give us a little grace. Because I have a tough job, right? I mean, it's one thing to just try to fill the potholes and make sure you're safe. And by the way, Harrell, completely rejuvenate downtown, too. And, I forgot to tell you, you're down about 500 police officers, but keep everyone safe as well. That's okay, because our community, we don't make excuses. We take the hand that we're dealt and we work hard. There's no substitution for hard work. Everyone in this room knows that. There's no substitution for hard work, and all you want is to be treated fairly and have access to opportunity. That's what our administration is about. So this partnership, this guy's working me to death, by the way. He keeps do this, do that, do this. It feels good because it is good. It's good work. So we look forward to partnering with you. Thank you for coming out. People that have worked in city government, thank you for being part of it, of what we're trying to do. And this community is awesome. So thank you very, very much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Harrell. One final round of applause, and I'm making sure that I've reserved at least 2 minutes of selfie time for the mayor before he gets out of here, right, as he gets mobbed on the way out. But again, Mayor Harrell, thank you for your time with us today. Chera, thank you for your insights, and again, best of luck with your business, and hopefully we can continue to be with you on this journey. So thank you, everybody. Great.